Good morning on this April Fool's Day. Today is granddaughter Erica's birthday, and it was her due date. Laura's due date was April 1st, and Erica was born on this day. So I have to wish a happy birthday to my granddaughter. I'm in Bismarck today, this morning, and I'm going to have my right rotator cuff repaired. I have an appointment here with a doctor anyway, and so that's why we're a little bit early today. We looked today at Judges 15 through 18, and Samson had this woman, and she kind of took advantage that way, and his wife was given to another man because of her. She had tricked him. She had cheated him that way. And so after a few days later, Samson went back to visit, and her father would not let Samson see his wife, and he had given her to another woman, he said, or to another man. And Samson, in his anger, went and caught, says, 300 foxes and took torches and tied them between their tails. And I can't imagine how a man could catch 300 foxes. I mean, that's just crazy. But, it says he lit torches and put between their tails, and they ran through the wheat fields that they had just begun to harvest. So they were ripe, ready to burn, and he destroyed a lot of crop. It said set fire to sacked grain and standing grain, as well as olive orchards. And the Philistines were upset by that and wondered who did this, and they find out that it was Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because of what he had done. And so the Philistines retaliate by burning this man and his wife, Samson's wife, and Samson, avenged these men, and it says 3,000 men of Judah went down, and wondered, don't you know that the Philistines are ruling us? What have you done to them? You angered them, and we're going to tie you up and turn you over to them. So Samson agrees to that. He's afraid that once they get him tied up, that they will, dispatch him. They'll kill him, but they swear that he won't. But he gets going, and when they get to this spot where they are, Samson cries out. I mean, he's lost his strength and been captured now, tied up, but he cries out to God, and God hears him. And it says his bonds melt off, and with the jawbone of a donkey, he kills 3,000 men. I mean, the power of God, the might of God is shown in that. I mean, how could one man stand against that kind of a number? But that's what the power of God is. There's no limiting the power of God, and we see that so often. And after that, he was thirsty. He said, he calls upon the Lord, and you've granted great salvation, but now shall I die of thirst? And God causes water to come from a hollow, it says, and he drinks, and he is revived, and he judges Israel then for 20 years. So Samson is then the leader of these Israelites. And I often wonder, with the Israelites, I mean, there were the 11 different settlements. There's 12 tribes counting the Levites, but were they all ruled at the same time, by Samson? And it says he ruled Israel, so evidently did. But yet it seems like there were frictions between the different tribes of Israel too. And then when we get to verse 4 of chapter 16, Samson meets Delilah. He loved a woman in the valley of Sorek named Delilah. And this is another story I'm sure that everybody is familiar with. And he hadn't lost his strength before that. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But it was the riddle that she had betrayed him with. But, Delilah is a Philistine, and the Philistines try to find out from her where Samson gets all of his strength. And he tells her a lie. He says, well, if you bind me with some fresh bowstrings, well, they did that. That didn't work. And then they did something more, and that didn't work. And and so I mean, just as Samson was tricked by his wife with her wondering about the riddle, and he finally told her, and she told them. Same thing happens with Delilah. Each time he tells her where his strength comes from, she does whatever she can to destroy that strength so that the Philistines could come and capture him. And then finally, he tells her again that, my hair's never been cut. So she has him sleep on her lap and she cuts his hair. And then he is powerless. I mean, and, this was the pledge that God would be with him as long as he had, didn't get a haircut. And the Philistines treated him horribly. They gouged out his eyes and made him work at the mill in the prison. And they decided, these Philistines did, that Samson would come and entertain them. And so, I mean, I don't know how that worked, but he came out anyway. And he said, let me feel the pillars on which the house rests. And he prayed to God for strength, and he prayed to God that he might die with all these Philistines. And he pushed on the pillars and caused the collapse of the house, killing all who were there. It's the sad stories of men who, of people who try to do their best, people who follow God, people who listen to God, that are tricked by others and not respected. And we all know people that have been undercut and people that have been falsely accused and so many different things that way. But we see it happen anyway. When we come to chapter 17, it says there was a man of the hill country whose name was Micah, and he said to his mother, the 1,100 pieces of silver that you're missing, hey, I took them. And he stole from his mother, and she's been wondering about these silvers and looking for them. And then, well, she restores them, gives them back to him. And he makes a silver image and a metal image and begins to worship them and sets up a shrine in his house. And then it talks, there's this young man from Bethlehem of Judah, a Levite, that is looking for a new place to stay. And I'm reading in a Gideon Bible, and it's, he says he sojourned there. Sojourned. He found a place to stay for a while. He journeys someplace and he stays for a while. So, my New International and several others say that he stayed there for a while, and then he journeyed, and he came to Micah's house. And Micah asked him, well, where'd you come from? Who are you? And he says, well, this and this, and I'm a Levite. Oh, and Micah gets all excited because now instead of the son that he is ordained as his priest, he has a real Levite, a real priest that he can have as a priest in his worship of this false god that way. And so and Micah, the last verse of chapter 17 says, now I know the Lord will prosper me because I have a Levite as a priest, And, he has a Levite for a priest, but he's still worshiping a false image, a great, something made out of silver and metal. I mean, and that's, so God is going to prosper you because you're worshiping this false image? I don't think so. And then it says there was no king in Israel those days. And so here's already the hint that, like said, Samson led for 20 years. Well, he judged Israel. He wasn't a king. So there's already a little bit of undercurrent, it seems like, of them wanting a king, looking for a king. So and looking for land. The people of Dan was seeking for itself an inheritance to live in, since there was no inheritance among the tribes had fallen to them yet. So they hadn't captured all of the land evidently yet. And so he sends 5 spies out, and they spy out this land, and the people are peaceful people and this and that, and okay, let's go. And we're going, and while they're going, they come across Micah's house, and they find this Levite priest there, and they tell the Levite, why don't you come with us? You can be the priest of a whole nation, a whole land of people, and we'll take these false idols and we'll take them along and make an altar, and so they do, and this Levite goes with them. I mean, it's just I know I'm smiling because I just kind of laughing at this story of, this this Levite priest who was just traveling around looking for a place to stay. All of a sudden now he's going to be the priest of a nation, of a country of people, and they've got these false images they're going to worship, and you can just see it. In some points of time it's not going to go so good. But anyway, they take the 600 men of the Danites and they go away and they go back and they attack this land but Micah finds all of this out, and of course Micah can't stand against them, so it's just kind of, well, I guess that's okay. It's just kind of there's so many times that I've been reading this, and it just kind of makes me chuckle that it says, "You take my gods that I made and my priest, and you go away. What have I left? What do you think of me?" But it's just so laughable so much. And when Micah saw they were too strong, he turned around and went back home. Just he was a whip dog. He just had nothing else that he could do. But the people, it said, took what Micah had made and the priest, and they took him to the edge, and they captured this city, and they moved in and they made that city their own. And the last thing we read today, and so they set up Micah's carved image that he made as long as the house of God was at Shiloh. And so here they've got this false image in the house of God. It doesn't seem like it's going to pan out real well in so many ways. But it's the history of a people evolving in their journeying to a new promised land with a God that they just continue. They just continue to fail. They continue to fail God. But God never, ever fails them.